could the US dollar versus the Canadian dollar finally be ready to break out of this range and head 300 pips higher to test that decade-long range resistance? I'm going to have all the details in today's video. We're also taking a look at the DXY, the US dollar index, and also US oil, WTI, because if this market does break out like I think it might here over the coming days, it is going to be a combination of what's happening with the US dollar and also oil. So looking at the dollar CAD, we've talked about this one for a very long time, for months really, going all the way back here to this consolidation that occurred over the course of 2 years. So you can see here on the weekly time frame, going all the way back to 2015, the dollar CAD has just moved here within this range. So USD CAD has just moved here within this range over the past decade really. And with the market coming off of range support down here, and also this consolidation through here, furthermore, what I talked about, you can see we kind of had a little rounded bottom that occurred through here. This breakout above 1.387, we were getting bullish in the VIP group through here on that weekly breakout. And what I said there was to expect a rather aggressive move up toward about 142.65 and potentially 146.70. Now, you can see that we did get a retest of the top of this range from back here. So this was 142.65 through here. We got a retest of that. So that was the first target following the breakout. Now, the second target up here around 146.70 so far has remained a bit elusive. And the reason for that comes down to what's been happening with oil, because the Canadian dollar moves with oil prices. So if oil is strengthening, the Canadian dollar is also going to be well bid. So you have this kind of tug of war going on here between the US dollar and the Canadian dollar, where on the one hand, the US dollar has been very strong, as we all know, but on the other, the Canadian dollar has also remained well bid just because of what's happening with oil. So we're going to talk about both of those charts here in a second, but first I do want to mention, guys, that I was actually longing this market here following this reclaim. So if you look at the 4-hour time frame or the 8-hour, any of these intraday time frames should do. If you look here, we had a sweep of these lows. So back here in this area, what I was telling VIP members was to watch for a sweep of these lows. And the reason for that, when you get a range like this that builds up within an uptrend, you get liquidity that builds up below these lows. And markets seek liquidity. So I knew that there was a good chance we see a sweep of these lows, which we did. And I told VIP members that I would be longing a reclaim of that. So I was longing this last week through here. I have taken profit on this, a partial profit on this twice throughout this, including right back here in this area, which I told VIP members we would probably see a sweep down here in this area over the next 24 to 48 hours, which is also what we've gotten so far. And part of that was, you can see that right back here, this 8-hour candle, this one right through here, you can see that we got a partial retrace of that, but there was an imbalance on a few different time frames through this area. So we did get a sweep into this area, and now we're seeing the market bounce. So full disclosure, guys, I did reload my long position here, and I'm looking for, once again, the top of this range. If we get a breakout above 144.50, then we could finally get that push into 146.70. But it's important to understand too that this is a range bound market until proven otherwise. So let's take a look first at the DXY, then we'll get into oil. And first up with the DXY, what we've talked about here many times is the fact that this area over here, okay, so this low right back here around 109.50, this low right back through here was an imbalance for the DXY. So this was our target because this back here was an imbalance. This was our target following the reclaim at 102.60, also this breakout. So this up here was our long-term target. And what I've said over the past few weeks is that even though this right here was resistance, we could see the DXY head up here to test the top of this channel. And that comes in right around 110.50, which we have not seen yet. So while there's no guarantee of that, I do still think that we could get the DXY up there into that area. Now, you can see over the past 48 hours, we are seeing a pullback here from the US dollar. But at the same time, it's still holding above this on a daily closing basis. These highs back here, this right here is not a breakdown, guys. If you are shorting the US dollar through here, in my opinion, you are shorting into an uptrend, and you're also shorting into this key support area. Furthermore, what we talked about in VIP just a few hours ago is if you look on the 4-hour time frame, there is intraday support down here right around 109.20. All right, now the key for the DXY is going to be where it closes in relation to this area around 109.5. If it closes the day back up here, then this area is holding intact as support. Now, if it does close below, we could see a bit more of a pullback here from the US dollar, but what I said about shorting into support still remains, guys. You're also shorting an uptrend. I mean, again, there's really no reason to be bearish on the US dollar as long as it's carving higher highs and higher lows. We've seen this every time, including back here last week. I know a lot of people were getting bearish on the US dollar here on this candle. And what we were saying is that this was really just a pullback here into key support, and we got a nice bounce from there. Okay, so, again, right now, this is just an uptrend, guys. There's no reason to get bearish here just yet. Obviously, if the market were to come down here and start taking out some of these highs and lows, then we could have a shift in momentum for the USD. But as of right now, I'm still looking for that area around 110.50. It's just a matter of, can the market, hold up in this area and we get that balance, or do we see something a little bit deeper before we get that move up here into this area? Obviously, just all my opinion, guys. I could be wrong, and this is never financial advice. One thing too, guys, before we move on, if you do want to join us in VIP, check out the link in the description of this video for 85% off lifetime access. If you're on the website, click on that button that says Join VIP. So let's look at US oil, because this chart right here could be really the reason why we see a rally from the dollar CAD, because again, US oil prices are going to help the Canadian dollar stay well bid if they are rising. So if we get a pullback here, a correction from oil, from WTI, then that could bode well for a dollar CAD rally. Now, what you'll notice here on the weekly time frame here for US oil is you've got these lows back here. And we talked about this in VIP. We've talked about this since last week. But on the weekly time frame, this right here is very clear. Now, we saw the market actually come above this area here this week, and so far we are getting a decent rejection from this area. So what's going to be key for US oil is if we go down to the daily time frame, and this is really kind of a separate idea. I mean, you could even trade this if you wanted to. Again, this isn't financial advice, but this could be an idea on its own just because we have US oil so far pulling back today. However, what's going to be critical is this area around 77.60, right? So you can see this high right back here. We got the close above. If we see oil start to close down here, right, give us something convincing to show that this is a failed breakout, then we could get that move back down here toward this pocket and then potentially into this area down here, which is also a December weekly imbalance. So this right here, if we were to get it from US oil, and again, this is still a big if, guys. We don't know if we're going to get this yet because this pattern has not confirmed. But if we do get US oil pulling back from this area, right, on the weekly, so, over the coming, let's say, 1 to 2 weeks or even 3 weeks, doing something like this, pulling back here and then bouncing, that right there, that pullback could bode well for the dollar CAD, right? That could be enough. If the DXY stays constructive, that could be enough to send the market higher up there toward 146.70. So again, still a big if. We don't have confirmation of this just yet, but it is certainly something to watch, okay? So these are all things that I'm watching right now with the dollar CAD. Again, I am long from this. I did long this today, actually very close to this low. So right around 143.53. That was my long right there. And my stop loss is still below the low down here from last week. So same position. I've just been trading around a core position here for the dollar CAD and looking for a move back toward 144.50. And if that breaks, then we're looking at 146.70. Now, what would negate this is if we see the dollar CAD come down here and take out this low and close below 142.60. Really, as long as we're above this area down here on the high time frames, then this idea is going to remain intact. And one last thing too, before we close out this video, this is going to be potentially beneficial for, timing, because, again, I still think that we are likely to see a move up there toward that decade-long range resistance around 146.70, simply because of what's been going on here for the past decade. But as far as timing on this move, right, because obviously the market's very sideways right now. It's just a matter of, when do we finally get that push higher? And one thing that could be beneficial here is if you notice from down here at this low, if we snap a trend line toward this low down here and drag this level up, you can see where the market is getting very close to this trend line. All right, so you've got these two lows back here, and you've also got, depending on how you draw it, you've got, this low or potentially a few lows through this area. And this, again, comes in here over the coming days to where if we map this out, really this intersection right here is on Thursday of this week. So you can make the case that over the coming days, the market is going to come into this confluence of support where we have this intersection of these range lows, which again, were swept last week. And then we've also got this trend line here, okay? So in terms of timing, I think that the dollar CAD is really going to have to sort itself out here over the coming days. Of course, the market could just break down from this, but given the uptrend we've seen here and also those decade-long range highs up here, I still think that we are likely to get a push higher out of this consolidation. All right, again, I could be wrong here. I do have a long position on. I could be wrong. It's never financial advice, but the chart still looks very constructive here. So I am looking for that push higher from the dollar CAD.